Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now, leave any comments in the comments section. Please like and share the video as well. Taking your questions today for Ask SCW. Got the questions from Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter, SCW Wrestling Channel, with the @SCW_Steve. And of course on Instagram it is SCW The Wrestling Channel. So make sure to follow those pages right now and follow everybody's Ask Questions for this particular episode as well, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram. Get yourselves involved as well. You can ask questions for the next episode of SCW. So without further ado, let's get into the first question this week. It comes from Carmine Rocco. There's been rumours about a draft coming back, so how would you handle it and which major stars would go where? Well, it's a great question, and with the rumours coming back of a draft coming to WWE, the rumours I've seen so far is that it wouldn't be a major change. It would mainly just eliminate the wildcard rule. Maybe just a handful of stars would change each brand. Though potentially NXT could have a couple of upbringings, maybe a couple could go down, and maybe just to solidify and keep the rosters so they have perhaps a bit of identity, and perhaps just those people that aren't getting the television time. And I think that's the sensible thing here. There are certain areas that on both shows that probably could do with a bit of tweaking. I always find that with the move going to Fox, will Fox want a different format of the WWE product, and I think that is crucial. If they're looking for a more sports-sided element to the wrestling, you can have the entertainment factor on Raw, and then the sort of the wrestling side on SmackDown, and NXT has that alternative as well with their brand on the USA. As for big moves or big movers, I think the areas that need moves, SmackDown, I think in the main event scene at the moment for me, I think is lacking perhaps a main event star. I'm not saying it needs more than one, but possibly two wouldn't hurt. I think as well, you could say that with the tag team divisions, I think Raw has a big tag team division, and I think that one or two of those would be helpful to go to SmackDown Live. I think the Revival would be a great shout to go to SmackDown, if I'm brutally honest, because you look at the heel side on Raw, they've got some big teams and some big movers there that could be, although it looks like the Viking Raiders have taken more of a face turn this past week on Raw, so it'd be interesting to see what way they're going to go that with the teams. But the Revival for me would be a good shout, especially as they're going for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at present. This has been recorded before Clash of Champions, so of course the result may come out afterwards. In the mid-card as well, I think just if people are kind of lost on television, I would move them over. I think Rusev would be a good shout for Raw. The Miz would be good for SmackDown. Just anything that gets people on television, I think, would be a great thing. But for main event movers, because you said they're the big stars, I wouldn't do too much movement. But I would say for Brock Lesnar, when he comes back from part-time, I would move him to SmackDown Live. And I think Braun Strowman would be a potential shout for SmackDown as well. And potentially after the rivalry of Kofi and Randy Orton, I wouldn't mind seeing Randy on Raw, personally. It's been a long time since Randy Orton's been on the Raw side of things. So they would be perhaps some of the major moves that I would make. And definitely, it's been a long time since we've seen Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton. I think that could be an interesting program if they were to go down that line somewhere in the winter. But of course, we'll have to see what happens with the Universal Championship as that goes into the next few weeks. But going on to the next question, Seth Owens from Aussie Lucian, and of course, if I get any of the names wrong, I'm very sorry. How do you think the NXT television deal will affect the brand going into the future? I think there'll be a few changes, but I don't expect wholesale changes. I expect they will probably keep a similar philosophy in what they do and how they do things, but I think the roster will get more stacked. And the question is, are we going to get, instead of where we've had quality over quantity in previous, is it going to become where it fills out into more quantity over quality? Because we're going to get 2 hours of NXT every week. Rumours are that we're going to get another takeover. We are expected more NXT UK stars to appear on this NXT show. There could be a chance of 205 Live. If that folds, that could go into the NXT marquee as well. Rumours are that Triple H has sort of said 205 Live is lost, and he kind of would bring that under the NXT banner if he could. And of course, we've got a lot of stars that perhaps don't get TV time every week on NXT. they'll probably start getting more TV time. It would be interesting to see as well if one or two of the main roster guys that are not getting any TV time will be pushed down to NXT. So you're already there looking at it and think that's a very stacked roster. NXT could be another brand that becomes oversaturated with talent and people could get lost in the shuffle. So that is one of the main concerns, I would say, despite the fact we're going to get more TV time. And it sounds mad to say that when there's going to be an extra hour each week. But the rumours are, I mean, Pete Dunne is going to become part of NXT main time. Apparently he's in the process of moving to the United States of America. Tony Storm is rumoured to be coming up as well. Rhea Ripley already made the move there. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a bit more of the UK stars when they perhaps had their big title reigns, and when it's time for them to move on, I would see them potentially going into the main NXT. Maybe you could see one of the two NXT superstars, and we've seen it in the past where they're not getting that TV time. They could move down to NXT UK, because NXT UK still kind of is a bit more of a feeder brand, hence why Cassius Ohno is probably seen as a bigger star on the NXT UK brand than he was on the main NXT show. But that's my personal opinion with that. But to look at it, I mean, there is a lot there that could happen. Perhaps takeovers. There's been rumours as well that it could be getting an extra takeover next year. Takeovers could become longer if there's more stars and there's more rivalries going on. It's trying to keep NXT what it currently is, but giving them one extra hour of TV. And that is going to be the tricky thing, to keep the quality and not go to quantity. And I think that's the only fear factor. It's staying in Full Sail. Rumours are that Vince has not got anything to do with it. So for me, those are positives. It's still Triple H's baby. It will remain Triple H's baby. And yeah, let's hope that NXT is still the brand that we come to love when it comes into the Wednesday Night Wars, and starting this week on the USA Network. But I'm very excited for it, just before we go on to the next question, because I do feel that NXT with a live feel for me is going to be more exciting. When we was these TV tapings, there is always a tendency to see the spoilers sooner than later, and I always try and avoid a spoiler, but it doesn't mean that I don't know what's happening, especially when you're looking on Twitter all the time. People go to the shows, stuff gets revealed, and even if you don't know every single detail, you always end up finding out something. There is going to be a real surprise element and factor, and I think, like, even something silly as when Apollo Crews surprised and came back to NXT to take on Kushida a couple of months ago. That was a big deal for people at the time that were going to those TV tapings. But for us who knew that was coming, it wasn't such that big surprise. And I look forward to the surprise element coming into NXT. I think there really has got the magic where this could... I don't want to say a Monday Night War with AEW, but I think we could have some special television between these two brands, with WWE's NXT and AEW, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that is going to play out. Next question comes from Dylan Ketchum, who says, why Kevin Owens is the perfect superstar to anchor NXT on the USA Network? Well, it's a good question, and there has been rumours going around because, of course, Kevin Owens was fired on SmackDown Live this past week. Will he be going to NXT? For me, it would make a logical move because of the fact that Kevin Owens would be he's a big star, he's a household name, and if you want to get people to tune in to NXT every week for names perhaps that the casual fans may not be so familiar with, it seems ludicrous to say that because NXT is shouted on a weekly basis, especially when superstars are brought up from NXT. A lot of people do know who they are, but there is this belief still that according to the main roster, some people come up and the idea is that people don't know who they are. They can just change the gimmick. They can change the complete direction of where they were going NXT onto the main roster. So this is going to be a good way of getting those casual fans to look at the NXT superstars and say, right, okay, we now know who they are. Because if you're going to tune in, and there's been rumours of Kevin Owens going down, Daniel Bryan, people will tune in to watch these two guys. And then if you see a great match with Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole or Kevin Owens, you know, all of a sudden just... it gives the guys that you're building up in NXT more credibility going against a Kevin Owens, and at the same time you're bringing more eyes to the prize. Why Kevin Owens, I think, would be actually a good shout for this, and I'm not saying it's a definite going to happen because I'm not convinced his storyline with Shane McMahon is finished, and we know with a fired storyline in WWE usually means nothing. Unfortunately, they don't seem to stick to it a lot of the time, but if they were to switch him to NXT, I don't think Kevin Owens has been booked that well on the main roster. He seems to me have had a stop-start career throughout his time on the main roster, particularly since he lost the Universal Championship at the start of 2017. It's always been a bit, start and stop with Kevin Owens. When we think we're getting somewhere, they pull the plug on him again, and he's back to square one. So for me, it could be a good thing. And just to throw a little teaser out there for you as well, a long time ago, I think there was a teaser that Kevin Owens could be involved with the Undisputed Era, that he would be a welcome addition, I think, to Adam Cole, perhaps, or to them anyway. If Kevin Owens was to be involved with that stable, I don't know, I just think there would be something very exciting about that, and I weirdly think he would fit in. But of course as well, I mean, he's on a face run at the moment. Him to be against the Undisputed Era as well would be very interesting as well. And I think there's an exciting element here, because a guy like Kevin Owens coming to NXT into an event like War Games, it would give superstars on that main roster an opportunity to make themselves involved with the takeovers and be perhaps in some type of matches like War Games that they wouldn't get to be on the main roster, which would be an exciting element for them as well. Next question comes from Tyson, number one fan. Over the next few months, we're going to see several free agents, and one of the biggest names is the villain. Of course, that's Marty Scurll, who most likely will join AEW. But what about Matt Taven, Shinsuke Nakamura, Luke Harper, Dalton Castle, and one I think it can be huge, especially if WWE gets him, is Jacob Fatu. Any news? Well, I've tried to look up a little bit on the news stuff, but I mean, of course, a lot of stuff when superstars are going to be joining these major companies, a lot of them do try to keep it under wraps. For some of those names there that you have mentioned, Marty Scurll, his contract, from what I'm aware of, according to the dirt sheets, is due up in November, and I think he is a safe bet to be part of AEW. I think somewhere down the line when his contract would run up as well, Flip Gordon would be another one, but I think he's got a couple of years to go. I remember when he signed his last contract with Ring of Honor, I believe it was a 3-year contract, and I can be wrong, but I believe that's what it was. And if that is the case, then he's only 1 year into that contract, so it still could be a couple of years away. My feeling with some of the other ones, I mean, we mentioned Shinsuke Nakamura, he's still with the company, originally signed a 3-year deal, being the current, or up till Clash of Champions, things can still change between now and when you watch this video, is the Intercontinental Champion. I'm not sure if that contract is running out just yet. Matt Taven, ROH World Champion, he would be a great coup if and when his contract becomes available. Same with Dalton Castle. But Luke Harper, he is locked in his WWE contract, and I believe that another 6 months was put on his contract when he asked for his release. So I think, again, we're still going to be waiting a bit of time. But all those superstars, I suppose, at some stage when they become available, would be great acquisitions for AEW. And so would Jacob Fatu, whether he went to AEW or WWE. The guy has got a lot of potential. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it's going to be booked out. But I mean, the Jacob Fatu, would he be booked like a Umaga, or would he be booked, like another Samoan Bulldozer, like a Roman Reigns, and pushed heavily to the top of the card and become a face of the company? We'll have to wait and see. But of course, Jacob Fatu more likely would start in NXT before going to the main roster. But I do think a lot of those names mentioned there is potential. I think the only one unlikely to make any move in any shape or form, if I was to give an opinion, would be Shinsuke Nakamura. It seems that he's set to remain for WWE for the time being. But never say never with any of those names. But Marty Scurll, for me, definitely, I expect before the end of the year, he will be AEW bound. Wednesday Night Surprise, definitely, hopefully, will be a nice little ratings pop as well when he gets there. Next question comes from my good friend, Mr. 1925. Which one female do you think could which female do you think could enhance the AEW roster? Easy for me to say. My choice would be Tessa Blanchard. Well, it's good to get my good friend from Belfast here with a question for the first time. But I completely agree with you. Tessa Blanchard is a game changer. She is the one that would get a lot of people excited about it, because she's making such headways underneath. And with Tully Blanchard being involved with Shawn Spears now in AEW, it almost is like a chess move. It's like moving that queen and blocking in the Queen and saying check. And I think personally, when it comes to the time where Tessa Blanchard does leave Impact Wrestling, I do believe she'll be AEW bound. And I think it's a part of AEW that does need improving, in my personal opinion. I think I've said this before in this little series, but I do believe that the women's roster is probably the weakest part of AEW personally at the moment. I even believe, and this is quite controversial, so I expect a thumb down from this, but I hope people do see my point of view. I actually think even Impact Wrestling has a stronger women's division right now. And Tessa Blanchard, of course, is one of the big reasons. Taya Valkyrie, Jordan Grace, they will be great shouts as well that could be involved maybe somewhere down the line with AEW. Kira Hogan as well. She's a very good, talented athlete as well, and Tenille Dashwood as well. She has been involved with AEW, but she's signed recently with Impact Wrestling. But a lot of those women, if they were to become available, would be fantastic additions. One other name that I will be throwing out for you, this is from Ring of Honor. Kelly Klein is a fantastic in-ring women's performer. I would love to see her under the AEW banner. I think she would really fit in really well. But there's a lot of great women's talented women out there. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have their own opinion of who would be good for AEW. You don't want to oversaturate AEW because they do have, I think, about 10 or 11 women on their roster signed currently to the company. So obviously you don't want to have a situation where, like in WWE, a lot of them are just basically in catering and not getting any time on the television. But I do believe that there is maybe 3 or 4 names out there, and we've mentioned a few of them there, that I think could really, really strengthen the AEW women's roster. And like I say, Tessa Blanchard, I agree with you 100%. Kelly Klein would be my second choice. I think Taya Valkyrie and Tenille Dashwood would be the top names out there. If they could get them in that women's division, that would be really good for them. And I think Jordan Grace, she's got a unique look as well. Those for me would be key assets and acquisitions if they were to get them once their contracts run up from their other respective promotions. Next question, and a couple of questions here we've got from Tyler Slade. Does AEW need to stop signing free agents, funnily enough we speak about free agents, and move forward with the roster they have currently to build their stars first? Will AEW focus truly on being an alternative, or let NXT going live get in their heads? 2 questions there, so we'll tackle first there about the free agents. Well, there's always going to be 1 or 2 free agents that I think that will keep creeping in, mainly because not every superstar that AEW is going to sign on the first go will probably connect with the crowd and probably get over the way they want to. It's always going to be a transition at the start. They've got a lot of superstars in, whether it be male or female. They're going to do their best to make the stars of those people, and I think and I believe that they will make the stars of the people they've got. I'm sure they've got perhaps a number of people who are going to be top priorities to push them and make stars out of them. I think this is one of the reasons why Chris Jericho is currently having a little bit of the bubble with the AEW championship. He will make a star maybe 3-6 months down the line, and I don't think he's going to be losing the belt to someone like Cody. It's going to be someone like Hangman Page, maybe could be someone like Pac. Those are going to be the people they're going to try and push towards the top. Jon Moxley is there as well, a good household name. Those household names are probably already the star power that they've got with Cody, Moxley, Jericho, Omega to a point as well, but they're going to want to really build those stars that perhaps, shall we say, not WWE level of household names. And I think they will do that before they keep bringing in loads and loads of talent. But at the same time, you could look and say that they brought in some people at the time to make a roster. Some of those people, just sadly, it won't work out for them, and they may end up falling by the wayside. And there are people out there that probably could improve AEW's roster at some stage, depending on if and when they become available. And if it works for them on TNT, then it will become a very attractive proposition for superstars, whether they're leaving WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan even. It could become somewhere that people see as that true alternative, as you mentioned in your second question. And I do believe they will look to try and be an alternative. I think they will try and bring storytelling back to wrestling. I think that's what their main thing and aim is to do, and to make tag team wrestling relevant. So far, so good on what they're doing. I'm interested in see what they do when it comes to a weekly television scale. It's very easy to do when you've got maybe shows here and there, and you can put out the odd video that people are going to watch and say, okay, right, that's building up that match. What's going to happen when they need to fill a 2-hour show each and every week? Will they be able to build those stars up the way they want to? Will they let WWE or NXT going live get to their heads? It may make a panic move, but Cody seems very calm about it at the time being when he's been interviewed about this stuff. So I'd like to think it wouldn't be a panic button straight away. But we'll have to wait and see. When the head-to-head happens, depending which show seems to win the ratings battle, maybe somewhere down the line, in maybe 3-6 months, maybe they might let it get to the heads, but we'll have to wait and see. I hope it doesn't go to the heads. I hope that they have a plan. I hope they stick to it, and I hope that there won't be any issues or any egos that gets in the way of having a true alternative to WWE. You've got more questions, Tyler Slade, and I do appreciate a lot of questions coming. Usually I would like just one, maybe two in the same tweet, but as they're all great questions, I'm happy to get them involved for this particular time. It continues with, will WWE take AEW too serious, and will it hurt their own product and business because of it? Is AEW more in the mind of WWE than WWE is in their heads? And what if AEW ratings bomb? How will AEW handle not instantly selling out shows? Well, we just mentioned about ratings, so we'll start with that one there. Time will tell. I mean, will they hit the panic button? Of course, eventually there might be a situation where they won't sell out every week because it won't be so special. It'll be more easily accessible to get to their shows touring the country, but hopefully they build and grow their fan base so that they can continue to do so. The key thing for them is to not go in too big of arenas too soon when it comes to the weekly products. Maybe with the big events they can do that, and hopefully if they continue with the things like the Starcast on the side, it will do all right. If the ratings don't do so well, then it's just a challenge to make your product better, and I think that is the be-all and end-all. If your product is good enough and you're getting it out there to a worldwide audience, which AEW have got more of a chance doing than any other of the companies that are not WWE right now, there is a chance that this can work for them. We'll have to wait and see as we go along. As for WWE taking AEW too serious, I don't think it will harm their product. If they take it too serious, they will aim to improve their product. I think steps are being made in a direction in an attempt to prove WWE's television product, giving us something better on the main roster. Is it delivering every week? No, but of course it's not going to deliver every single week. I do think there is improvements though to what we have been seeing. Perhaps if we look at late last year, that weekly Raw was painful to watch. It's becoming more fun to watch Raw again. Even if it's not for 3 hours of fun, there definitely is some noteworthy stuff that makes you think, well, actually that's good to watch. And I want WWE to take AEW serious, because then there really is an alternative for people, for superstars to go, superstars to work, fans to go and view and see, and if that's the case, WWE will go, hang on, I need to make this better. Is AEW more in the mind of WWE than WWE is in their heads? No, I think both are equally in each other's heads, and as much as AEW say that they're not in WWE's heads, or it's not in their heads, they make a few digs here and there when they can on their being the elites, press conferences. So I do think that AEW does have focus of WWE, same as WWE has focus of AEW. Next question, random sports thoughts. Who is the best wrestler in the world, and what criteria do you use to decide? Great question. For me, I always feel that a great wrestler is someone that puts on 5-star matches, but also can tell a great story in the match and has a decent gimmick that goes along with it. Gimmicks are great in wrestling because of the fact that they easily help tell that story. So if we're looking for people from the best of all time, Shawn Michaels was a great example of it. The Undertaker put on great matches as well. Those two together put on a couple of the best WrestleMania matches we've ever seen. For people currently, right now, in the world of wrestling, a lot of people would say Okada is probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Kenny Omega, Seth Rollins thinks he's the best wrestler in the world. For me, I always go to AJ Styles. I think he is the best wrestler currently in the world. Always puts on a great match, can sell, make someone look like $1 million. And at the same time, I think that whether face or heel, he plays his role to perfection a lot of the time. If he's the good guy, he gets the fans on side of him. If he's the bad guy, he can get people to boo him. And I think he's more entertaining as a heel on the mic as well. And I think those are some key elements that you need to be the best wrestler in the world. It's not all in ring. It's personality, it's the look, it's it's all the criteria and storytelling that goes into it. I love a good story. That's what grips me into wrestling. You can have a 5-star match and it's great to watch, but if there's nothing behind it, I'm not going to remember it in a week or 2 weeks' time. I just remember, they had a good match, but I don't remember any details about it. Something that makes you remember what goes on is the details and the story. So for me, that is a big criteria of what makes the best wrestler in the world. And if we look at AJ Styles in his run in WWE, you look at some of the 5-star matches he's had, and a lot of the time they have something about them. And normally the match itself, when they become a 5-star, have a good story with them. I go for a good example being the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. I believe it was 2017. Him and John Cena had an absolute epic encounter. In fact, their series of matches always were amazing, and they had a good story behind it and great storytelling when it came to the matches themselves. This next one comes from a Blunt Prince. When's the Fiend's next match? And why do so many people hate Seth Rollins? Great questions. The Fiend is next expected to wrestle at Hell in a Cell. It's even actually been publicised on WWE TV, this. He's expected to be facing for the Universal Championship. Arguably, for me, it's too soon. But at the same time, that's how it is at the moment. We'll have to wait and see how that is going to play out. Storytelling for me will tell you whether this was a good move or a bad move in the next few weeks. But for me, Seth Rollins, why do so many people hate him? I think there's a self-arrogance. And I think there's a lot of him saying he's the best wrestler in the world. A lot of Twitter hate as well. He's been kind of the company guy this year. I think it's rubbed people the wrong way. So I think Seth needs to keep off of Twitter. Needs to stop self-promoting himself. And even to a degree, I think his relationship with Becky Lynch has probably not done him many favours. A lot of people are happy for it, but there are some jealous people out there with it, and at the same time, the storytelling with them on WWE TV just didn't connect well. He needs some better storytelling. He needs some more things that are going to get people to get on side with him, not simply just be the best wrestler in the world. There was times when he was a heel back in 2014-15 with the WWE Championship. That really worked well at that point. People really had a lot of belief in Seth Rollins. Even at SummerSlam this year, the storytelling in that match got people on side for Seth Rollins. So they need to do more of that, and people won't be so negative when it comes towards him. And we are back for part 2 now, so straight back to twitter.com for your questions. And the next question comes from the Free Bees. Wrestling isn't what it used to be with the biggest guys dominating. And with that in mind, are the bigger guys getting overlooked, so to speak? I.e. Braun Strowman, big, strong and talented, but stuck in the mid-card for a long time. Yeah, wrestling is very different, I suppose, to how it used to be. We remember the golden era, and guys before, like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant would be in the main event. Then you get guys like Yokozuna, Diesel, and we've always had those big guys traditionally get towards the top of the card. And now, more than ever, we've got the smaller guys that are at the top of the card. Even to the point we've got like Seth Rollins, who seemed to best Braun Strowman at the Royal Rumble this year. And you really have trouble suspending that disbelief. The bigger guys are getting overlooked. There's no question about it. Size doesn't matter in the modern world of wrestling. It feels that it's a very weird thing to have to connect in your brain, but it's also a key part of the storytelling that a bigger guy will be more difficult to slam, more difficult to get off their feet. But we don't see that so much these days. People, no matter what the size, it's quite easy for them to get off their feet. For someone like a Braun Strowman, yeah, he has been stuck in the mid-card for far too long. Oh yes, he's in the championship match at Clash of Champions, but at the same time, you could argue that this guy should have been a world champion a long time ago, going back to probably 2 years ago now, when he was facing Brock Lesnar at No Mercy in 2017. That was the time to pull the trigger, perhaps even in SummerSlam the month earlier. And they haven't done it with Braun Strowman. They really have refused to pull that trigger when the time has been right, really, from a number of occasions that they could have done it, and they refused to do it. So yeah, I completely agree. I don't know why it isn't like this anymore, because it would make a lot more sense to have these guys that are bigger dominating. Perhaps even if we said we're going to get a different Raw and a different SmackDown, why not have one show devoted to where the bigger guys are on top? Then you've got the wrestling show, almost like a SmackDown 6 back in the 2000s, and you have those sort of middle-sized guys, the smaller guys, they're challenging for the World Championship over there. It's an idea, it's something that could be done, it's something that probably won't be done, and it'll probably be guys like, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, Bobby Lashley, they're still going to be struggling to get towards the top of the card, even probably a year or two from now. But I would like to see the bigger guys have more of an impact. I think it would make a lot more sense, storytelling-wise. I don't think it should just go back to slow-paced main events, but I do think that the bigger guys should have more credibility and should be booked stronger, because that's probably the damaging factor. If they're mid-card guys, that means they are not being booked strong enough, and the company doesn't have faith in them to put them towards the top of the card. Next question comes from Josh Marriott. Who is the better deathmatch wrestler, Sami Callihan or Jimmy Havoc? Both are fantastic at the death wrestling style. It's a very difficult. It's more really a preference. Both are very good at what they do. Both are sick and twisted individuals, to say the very least. And I probably should really go with Jimmy Havoc, being a Brit. I think he is perhaps more creative with his death matches, and therefore could be seen as the better deathmatch wrestler. But for me, storytelling has been a big theme of this video, and Sami Callihan, for me, the draw, is one of the best heels in wrestling today, and he's got that heel heat. And he's a guy, when I watch him wrestle and I see him in these style matches, I want to see him get beat up. And I think that that's a sign of a great heel. And normally those matches then stand out more and become better. So for that reason, I'm going to give that edge to Sami Callihan, although I'm pretty sure, and understandably so, it's a preference thing of what you look for in professional wrestling. I wouldn't blame anyone that would pick Jimmy Havoc over those two. Your next question comes from WrestleFan313. Is Impact Wrestling actually going to buy Ring of Honor? Well, I watched this on Wrestle Talk, so this is my source of where I've got this information from. Someone posted this on Reddit who is very creditable with Impact Wrestling and their inside sources of information. So stuff has been released by whoever the person was on Reddit, and stuff has come to fruition in the past. The person had been quiet for about 12 months, which shows maybe not as much information has perhaps come to this person, but this has come up and into topic of conversation. I personally would love to see it happen. I'm not convinced it's going to happen. I did ask the question myself on Twitter, looking for feedback, and apparently someone told me that the rumour is false. So at the moment, we have to just take it with a pinch of salt. Even on the Wrestle Talk, they said take this with a pinch of salt, not necessarily that's something that's guaranteed to happen. So, is it going to happen? I'm going to have to be honest with you and say, I don't know. I don't want to give you a promise to go, yeah, it's definitely going to happen, or no, it's not. And then, of course, I'll get it completely wrong. But for the meantime, I would say that I would say wait and see if more news stories come out of it, and it comes out. But as an idea of it happening, I would pretty much be quite a fan of it. Going back to Tyler Slade, who did ask some more questions for us this week. Do you think it would be good for wrestling if Impact were to actually buy Ring of Honor and combine these two rosters? Could they be making quiet moves that would give them a resurgence as a top company? Well, it certainly would improve both companies, Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling, if they were together as one, because they've both got two talented rosters, some great guys in there. I mean, we mentioned about Impact Wrestling, you've got Brian Cage. I mentioned the women's division earlier with the likes of Tessa Blanchard. We spoke about Sami Callihan a minute ago. We look at the Ring of Honor roster, Jay Lethal, Jonathan Gresham, Matt Taven, a Jeff Cobb as well. There's a lot of great talent there, and if they were to combine to make one roster, it definitely would strengthen Impact. It still would make them no bigger than the third biggest company currently in the United States. Arguably still would be fighting for a spot with New Japan. But with Ring of Honor, with their relationship with New Japan, could Impact Wrestling also gain that relationship? Who knows? It certainly would be interesting to see how that would be. It feels like Impact, though, has got something behind them, and they are going to keep going. They are trying to push themselves to become a bigger company than what they currently are, and which is something they should definitely do. And with them moving to Access, that is going to give them definitely some more eyes on the prize, because their viewership has been really bad this year, but the quality of television has been better. It's been good. I would say for over about a year and a half, 2 years now, Impact has been an improving product that people should be watching. As an idea of Ring of Honor completely folding and combining the rosters, potentially, or even they can make an ROH program, they can make an Impact program, and then they can have some fun with it, and they can make an Invasion storyline. They've got pretty much the license to do what they want with it. They can have guys go switch from show to show. They could even have fun and make a Raw and SmackDown out of it. You never know. But as a researcher of a top company, perhaps not so much, but definitely it would strengthen Impact Wrestling. There's no two ways about that. Last but not least, Anthony talks stuff. If the XFL succeeds, how much does Vince pull away from WWE? How much success would be needed from the XFL for that to happen? Well, looking at it, I would find it very hard that Vince McMahon will ever step away from WWE. I never see that day is going to happen until till that day comes. With the XFL, I mean, of course, perhaps it's going to take some of his attention. It's something that he definitely wants to get off the ground. So there could be suggestion, and there has been reports saying that he'll be less involved with WWE and with what's going on. Perhaps not as much at Raw and SmackDown. Perhaps not so many of these last-minute script changes where the script is ripped up and everything's going to be thrown together in the last couple of hours. Those days may go, and we may get a script and perhaps get more consistent TV. I think that they wouldn't necessarily need much success for that to happen. The only way that you go back is if the XFL completely flops and folds after one season. If it continues to succeed, yeah, there is a chance that Vince McMahon will step more and more away, but I always feel that Vince will still always have one eye on the WWE and have one eye on what's going on that product and have his say. And if he's not a fan of something that's being booked and he'll say, I do not want that, that's not happening, change that. I still think that is going to happen until that till that day that Vince passes. So I always expect him to have involvement, but will it be as hands-on? Perhaps not so much, and we'll have to wait and see to what level it'll be. Like you say, depending on the success. If it's really successful and demands all his time, you never know. Maybe he might pass the reins to Triple H, but I always still feel that there will be one eye always kept on the WWE product. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you very much for watching this particular video. Sorry to throw it all together in two parts, but I'm glad that we've got all the questions in. I appreciate everyone that has thrown questions in, and I hope you do it again, same time for us again next week. Make sure to follow the guys on Twitter if you guys are watching, or Instagram, depending where they've come from. And yeah, please keep an eye on SCW, subscribe to the channel. I do look to try and put more content on as each passing week goes by. There'll be another Ask SCW next week. And as well as that, also, I'll give my feelings on the King of the Ring, as well as the tournament hasn't been a success in 2019, and I'll give you my final prediction on Baron Corbin and Chad Gable. But yeah, that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on SCW. Take care, and yeah, all the best. Enjoy Clash of Champions.